Hey, welcome. I am Sam Sessa, Senior Pastor at Resurrection Lutheran Church in Caro, New York. We would love for you to join us this Sunday at 8:15 or 10:30 a.m. tomorrow. So, hey, if you are in Greene County, we are here for you. We love you, and we would love to support you as you get to know Jesus better. And you can do that by joining us. So, we are talking about salvation today. And in this season of Lent, we're using J.A.O. Preus's book, Just Words, to better understand all of the different ways that the Bible talks about God's incredible love, grace, and mercy that is for us in Jesus Christ and given to us through his Spirit. And the metaphor that we are looking at today is salvation. Now, we're actually going to look at salvation a little bit later in a different category of metaphors. Right now, we are looking at life metaphors. So we did birth, we did life, now we are doing salvation. And in the Bible, salvation has this sense of to be rescued, to be saved from something. And we as Christians have used it so much that it's just become synonymous with you having a relationship with God. And so if you grow up in some Christian circles, a common starting question might be, when did you get saved? Right? When did you get saved? When did you first experience salvation? And so what I love about Preus's book, Just Words, is especially for some of these words that are dead metaphors, is that we can breathe new life. That the word salvation should be so dripping with meaning and understanding that when the word is said, it automatically evokes a deep aroma of beauty, of poignant imagery, of feelings and emotions. And I think the very best metaphors evoke that kind of understanding. And unfortunately, and I don't think no one did anything wrong, it's just that we've used it so much that this metaphor has become dead. It's become independent of how you would normally use it. And so, like I said, there's a couple different ways that you can use salvation, but for this category of metaphors, this grouping of metaphors, we're going to look at it in this kind of life sense. So we are going to open up to the Gospel of Mark, chapter 5. So if you want to grab your Bible, we're going to open up to Mark, chapter 5, and we're going to jump all the way down to a woman. So this miracle healing occurs in a context. So this guy named Jairus, he's a Pharisee, and his daughter's in a very bad way. She's about to die, and he asks Jesus to come heal her. And Jesus is on his way to go do healing, a miraculous healing that will actually be a resurrection of this young girl. And we're going to see another miracle that happens. We're going to pick up in verse 25. So we are in Mark 5, verse 25. And there was a woman who had a discharge of blood for 12 years, and who had suffered much under many physicians, and had spent all that she had, and was no better, but rather grew worse. And she had heard the reports about Jesus, and came up behind him in the crowd and touched his garments. And for she said, if I touch even his garments, I will be made well. And immediately the flow of blood dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of her disease, that she was saved of her disease. And Jesus, perceiving that the power had gone out from him, immediately turned about in the crowd and said, who touched my garments? And his disciples said to him, you see the crowd pressing around you, yet you say, who touched me? And he looked around to see who had done it, but the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came in fear and trembling and fell down before him and told him the whole truth. And he said to her, daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your disease. The word salvation, one of its meanings is to be healed, to be made whole, to be saved from sickness, to be saved from death, to be rescued from it, to be delivered from it. And this healing that goes on happened in this woman. Now, here's a little bit of the context. So if you had essentially a chronic bleeding condition where you are constantly bleeding for 12 years, you would say, this is bad, right? I do not, as a man, deal with periods, right? But I understand that that is a difficult thing for a woman to go through, right? In all the different ways that it is difficult. And for this woman, she has some kind of bleed. Now, we're not given the exact specifics of her bleed, but perhaps it's something related to the reproductive system, perhaps not. Now, here's the thing you have to understand in Israelite society. According to the law of Moses, you can be pure or impure based on a variety of things. And or sometimes it's called clean and pure, impure, clean, unclean, same thing. And the thing is with being unclean is you have to go through a process to become clean again. And when you are unclean, you are ritually contagious, right? You don't have a disease, but you are ritually unclean, and your uncleanness can rub off on other people and infect them, and then they become unclean. Now, we look back at that, and it's a completely different society, and you might think, wow, that's kind of silly. But it wasn't so dissimilar for us in 2020 when, in the height of COVID and social distancing, right? If somebody had COVID, stay away from me. I don't want to get sick. I don't want to get what you got. And then there became a ritual, clean and uncleanness, depending on what group you were in, around the wearing of masks. If you wore masks, you were clean in some groups, and in other groups, you were unclean. And it's a whole different thing. Won't get into all that. But this ritual uncleanness that this woman has because of her bleed would mean that she could not be around other people because she could make them unclean. She could not go and worship God in the temple because she is unclean. In order for her to go from to being ritually clean, the bleeding would need to stop. Now, God's law, we don't have the time today to dive into the Bible study of all the different things that make you unclean and all the different ways that you have to go about being clean. The point being is that she is ritually unclean, and it is due to a physical malady that her body is going through. And in trying to solve this physical malady, she has spent all of her money on doctors who have tormented her and have done nothing for her, and she is now worse, not better, and being broke beside. And she hears about Jesus, and she says, if I can touch his garment, I will be healed. I will be saved. There ain't no one who went to this woman and said to her, you should touch the hem of Jesus's garment. There's no promise from God in that. This woman had faith that even touching the very edge of Jesus's robe would be enough for her to be healed. Now remember, her uncleanness is contagious. And so, by touching Jesus in her state of uncleanness, she will make Jesus unclean. So what happens? Jesus is in the crowd. He's on his way to heal this young girl. This woman, jostling through the crowd, grabs the back of his robe. Jesus feels what Mark describes as the power going out of him. And he's like, who touched me? And Peter's like, there's a million people around here. What do you mean who touched you? It's obvious that you were touched by 10,000 people, right? In this crowd. And Jesus is like, no. And then this woman comes forward and she's afraid. And the reason why she's afraid is because she has broken the law by intentionally making someone else unclean. But as soon as she touched Jesus's robe, she was clean. And there's something that is amazing that is going on that I think we so often miss, because in one sense, we see the salvation, the healing that occurs in her physical body, but there is also a salvation, a healing that is going on in her state of clean and unclean before God. Because here's the thing, Uncleanness is contagious, but Jesus is so powerfully pure that when he comes in contact with something that should make him impure, unclean, right? He instead makes that thing pure and clean. And in order for a thing to be pure and clean, it needs to then be in a state in which it can be pure and unclean. So if a person is having a bleed that is chronic and ongoing that makes them unclean, in order for them to be in a state of being clean and pure, they have to not have the bleed. And that's exactly what happens to the woman. That she is transformed, that she is healed, that she is saved by coming into contact with the one who can bring about that salvation. And in that moment, she was healed. In that moment, she was saved. And so here's the thing for you and for me. When we come in contact with the risen Christ, we are saved. We are healed. And the amazing thing is that our ritual state of impurity, because of our sin, because of the shame and the guilt that we have, because of the fear that plagues us, that is cast out because you are saved. You are healed by the one who brings that complete healing and forgiveness and resurrection life to you. And so here is another way that God communicates his love for you in Jesus, that he saves you. So the next time you hear the word salvation and you hear it in a sermon or you hear it at church or you read about it in the Bible, I want you to imagine the relief this woman had after 12 years of hopes being dashed, trying to find a cure, that she comes into contact with Jesus and is completely healed, is completely made clean, and now able to enter into society, now able to go worship God in the temple, because that is what Jesus is doing for you. And that is what Jesus is doing for me. And this is what Jesus is inviting you and me to participate in and invite other people into. It's a good thing. And so, if you're in the J.A.O area tomorrow, I'd love for you to join us on Sunday at 8:15 or 10:30 a.m. at Resurrection Lutheran Church in J.A.O, New York. And you can find out all the information you need to know at our website, www.rlc.life. Be blessed.